Hey everyone, Manny here. Today I want to make an update video. It's not going to be very long, very lengthy. I'm just going to go through a few more things that I have found out, some information that I gathered, addressing some comments, and again repeating the same thing at the very end to share, unlike at least these two videos that I have put out about this new regulation when it comes to the regulations that are trying to push by the CPSC. So before I start anything, if you haven't seen my initial video, it should be in the comments down below where I explain at least when I found out about this new regulation. I try to make a video as fast as possible to put it out so that people can become aware, and thanks to that it's been getting a lot of traction, and that's good. And I'm thankful for those of you who have shared it, liked it, commented on it, so that way the algorithm sees it and then starts pushing it out as much as possible. Hopefully we can do the same thing with this updated video. Now, to start off, I'm not a legal advisor. I'm not trying to give legal counsel to anybody. This is just, again, all the information that I was able to gather, and like the way that it's being interpreted and why there's concerns about it. So to give it a little bit of an update, one of the things that I've been seeing talked about and at least being put forward is that it's not just about toy guns anymore, right? If you look more into the actual regulation and read it more carefully and try to understand it, or at least try to see the many points of view of how this can be construed, is that now it's going to be a non-powder projectiles, right, / firearms, as well as it does include the word still toy guns. But if you look further into the documentation, it does state that also under traditional items can be, affected. In this case, you might be asking yourself what it could be. Paintball markers are one of them, in that it specifically states on the actual document, because a lot of this is going off of the initial regulations that are already in place for paintball markers, air guns, airsoft replicas, right, which is like the orange tape or being transparent, right, specifications and means of like how much FPS is allowed to come out of those items, right? So this regulation is adding more onto it. It's not going to change what is already in place. So again, that just means more red tape, more needs for concern, right? Because again, they're trying to regulate even harder for some odd reason, and they're trying to do it without any proper legislation. This was just put forward, right? Even the people that advocate for these kinds of overreaches, right? Not necessarily just because they like airsoft, but just in general, individuals that advocate for it were even like surprised because they didn't even find out until what I'm seeing is that probably at the beginning of this a month is when they found out that this regulation was trying to push forward. So again, the effect of this regulation is on a lot of things. Again, paintball markers, air guns, Nerf guns, your usual beefy Nerf guns that they sell that are usually for adult, activities, right? And your airsoft replicas. Those are the things that are going to be affected. Not only does it state the actual replicas themselves, but it also states that the projectiles. So if a projectile is deemed to be something dangerous, or there's no way of modifying it to a point where it's not considered unsafe, right? And I'm using it with quotations because that's what they refer it as being unsafe. That can be banned as well. And now manufacturers now have to deal with the fact of, okay, are we going to change the projectile or try to find a way? But if we change the projectile, that means that we have to change the overall design of it. And that's where more issues are going to come up. And that's why more concerns are going to be brought up. So again, the projectile is deemed dangerous, right? If BBs are deemed dangerous or anything like that by the CPSC, right? Not necessarily your opinion about it, because a lot of us in the community of airsoft have been hit. Probably some of us have been like blasted right in the face, and you know that I've had to deal with that. But again, individuals that don't really do this, which I assume that it's most of the CPSC employees, like they're not going to know this. They're not going to care about this. They're just going to push whatever legislation that they're trying to push without even asking the people. So what's the overall concern about this? One of the overall concerns, right, is again how broad this regulation is. This regulation is very, very broad, and it's not really a law. It's not a law. Most of the references that it mentions is from what regulations are already established. They're just trying to add this extra portion to it, to where they can pretty much do anything they want. They can literally just say, oh, you know what? And guess what? This is not regulated properly. We're just not going to allow it, right? Or we're just going to add more ridiculous, requirements aside from the ones that are already in place that you can choose from, or even probably remove it. And unfortunately, again, if this goes into effect, in order to remove this regulation, it's going to need the opposite of what the CPSC is doing, which is actual legal litigation. There's going to be actual litigation in court that has to take in place, unlike what the CPSC is doing, which is just bluntly fast tracking this because it's a new system that unfortunately the administration that is currently in place gave permission to do, right? So again, this regulation is very broad. It is very dangerous. It is why there's a lot of people talking about it. And if you are trying to help, there's a way of doing it. Now, before I go exactly on how you can help, I'm just going to address some comments, at least from my previous video. One of those is are other products going to be affected? Like I mentioned at the beginning, yes, other products are going to be affected by it. Again, from as obvious as airsoft replicas and air guns, down to the most silliest thing, which is Nerf guns, right? And a lot of people are mentioning about it, and I'm just using that as two complete opposites because that's what they are. They're very two complete opposites, and it shows how much oversight this agency has over this. How can you help? The way that you can help is doing this, right? In the description down below, right, you'll be able to see the links to the actual regulation as well as templates that you can use, right, and references that you can use. Now, in order to meet, right, the requirements for the comment to be taken in consideration, right, the primary template that you can use is the one annotated as Evike, because that initially addresses what needs to be addressed in order for your comment to be taken into consideration, right? And then you can add under it, right, personally, why it would affect you when it comes to, this new regulation. You can do this anonymously, or if you want to track the comment, whether or not it was approved or posted, you can add your email and your personal information, right? And I'm giving those two options because I know there's some people that might have an issue giving, the government, your personal information. I myself did it anonymously, but again, that's the way that you can help. The other way that you can help, if you don't feel like going through that hassle, is liking and sharing this video as well as commenting, right? Because again, that puts out to the algorithm that this video is something interesting and something that people want to see, and then in turn we'll have people that actually watch airsoft videos, airgun videos, right? Communities like those see this and be like, you know what, we need to act upon this, and then their comment should be good. Again, as where we stand currently, it shows that there's been about 7,000 comments submitted, but only 1.8 have been approved. Again, this takes a little bit of time for the system to update. They usually update it what seems like every 24 hours. So again, the more comments you push before the deadline, which is June 12th, is the deadline for the comments, the better. We'll see how this goes. And again, if anything changes, I'll update you guys in a new video. Other than that, be safe. Let's hope that this doesn't go through and that there's a tomorrow for airsoft.